In today's segment of In the Legal Know, we're discussing estate administration for when a loved one passes. Losing a loved one is never easy. I know it firsthand. And along with grief, families often face legal and financial and practical issues that need attention right away. And knowing what steps to take can help reduce the stress and avoid costly mistakes. So joining me now in the studio is attorney Vincent J. Russo. Thanks for being with us, Vincent.
Always.
And thanks for all of your help, because I've just come through this, and you are our lawyer. So thank God. And I don't just have Vincent. Everybody who's ever worked for him, his lawn guy, everybody. So it's incredible. So, you know, I kind of have gone through this with my mom, and then I guess 10 years later with my dad, just recently, a couple months ago with my dad. So what would you say is like the first thing you should do when you lose somebody? I think the first thing I did do was email you, to be honest with you, but what should you do?
Well, I would say don't panic that you have to run off and do a whole bunch of things. I think the absolute first step is take care of the funeral arrangements, talk to your loved ones, be there for them.
Sure.
And then you get into, all right, yes, there are a bunch of things we need to do. If the individual's living alone, you want to secure the house, right? If they had pets, you want to arrange for those pets to be cared for. When you're making your funeral arrangements, you're going to decide on getting death certificates. That's really important, because we're going to need death certificates when we deal with assets.
Right. And that was something I know for us, you gave me that advice right away, and I remember asking for the extra death certificates and all of that. The other thing I found, and I want to talk about probate, because that's a word that I hear all the time. There's also, like, sometimes when you call, this is hard to do, I know, I'm putting you in a bad spot. Like, when I was calling, like, the bank or something like that, they sometimes assumed that I was my dad. They didn't know that he had passed yet.
Right.
And I was like, well, do you tell them that? And then I have to send them all this paperwork, or do I just keep on going and get it done?
Yeah, I would say that before you start contacting financial institutions, banks, moving things around, speak to your lawyer.
Yeah.
Really, you should get legal advice and make sure you're doing everything legally and step by step, because we've seen some crazy situations that then we have to fix later on, and it costs more to fix the problem than if we were involved in the beginning. So I would say take a deep breath. Then when the right time after the funeral, meet with your attorney and have them walk through the process. I know there's a lot of great information on the internet, but it can mislead you. You can go down the wrong road. Trying to change a deed or moving money out of a bank account, closing a bank account. If you close a bank account, then what happens if a check comes in payable to that person? You can't deposit it because you don't have an account anymore. So you got to slow it down.
I always say I look good in black, but not in black and white stripes. So I got to do it the right way. Talk about probate a little bit, too, because now I didn't have this situation of probate, but probate is a very common situation, right?
That's right. So when someone dies, owning assets only in their name. So they don't have a beneficiary designation. It's not jointly owned. In that situation, now no one has access to those assets without a legal proceeding. If they have a will, it's a probate proceeding. In a probate proceeding, you have to file the will in the surrogate's court. The judge has to review the will, make sure it's valid, and then appoint an executor. And then the executor has the legal authority to access those assets. So when COVID came, it was a horrible situation because the courts shut down and no one could have access. And it took months, and in certain cases up to 2 years, before someone could actually access an asset or sell a home or pay bills.
Wow.
Yeah. And so avoiding probate can be incredibly helpful.
And you could do that in pre-planning, right? You could sort of avoid the probate situation?
Absolutely.
I think we did because of you.
Those are steps that can be taken in advance with a comprehensive plan, estate plan, where you make sure that if you want to avoid probate, which is a good thing, either you set up a living trust and put your assets in it, or make sure your accounts are jointly owned, or you've designated a beneficiary. And that's a way of avoiding probate. Legal fees, time delays, paying lawyers. You can avoid expense and time.
I mean, I did all of this because I knew you. So and thanks be to God, even through TV, people know Vincent and they trust him and everything else, which is hugely important. Now and then, though, there are these cases where somebody has no will. And now what do you do? And even people like, I mean, I know of priests who had no will, you know, and we don't have a lot, but at the same time, you know, there's some resources. So like if you don't have a will, where do you start then if somebody you love passes?
Sure. Well, first of all, everyone should have a will.
Yeah.
Or at least a living trust with a will. And if you don't have a will, then depending on what state you live in, the state will tell you how your assets are going to pass. So in New York, it's intestacy law, and it says, okay, if you pass away, then your spouse or your children, and there's a pecking order of who would inherit. But you haven't appointed anyone to manage the estate, and you haven't really controlled who you want to have those assets. Yeah. So you don't want to leave it to New York State to tell you what to do.
Right. And I mean, it's probably good, and it's, you know, I'm going to admit to all of you, it's not very comfortable talking about your own death, right? I understand that. But at the same time, if you do, at least your wishes and your thoughts are sort of understood ahead of time, right? That's the value of this, really, right?
Yes, and that's so important. It's the legacy that you want to leave with your family. Yeah. And making sure that what you want to have happen with your assets, your personal effects, you want to pass that in the right way. Yeah. And so having an estate plan allows you to do that. And it'll give you peace of mind that you've taken care of it, because you don't want to leave a burden on your family to have to figure it out. Yeah. Right? When you pass away, oh, what did Dad want? Yeah. Well, we don't know. Or, you know, who gets the personal effects? Yeah. You know, let's work it out in advance. Communication is so important.
And I remember you asked that question when we were planning. And like we were getting my mom all set up, my dad was, and you said to me, Monsignor, you have to talk about your life now too. Like, what about? And I was like, what? I'm never going to die. You know, that kind of thing. So it's a funny thing how you look at this. You know.
That's right.
Now, estate administrators. So families sometimes make pretty basic mistakes here, and it's good to know about this, right? Yeah. What's common mistakes that people make?
Common mistakes would be, one, just moving too quickly and doing things without the proper legal advice. Okay. So I think that's mistake number one for sure. You don't want to move assets around without understanding what the situation is. Selling assets. You may sell an asset and then you find out, oh, it was supposed to go to somebody.
Oh, wow.
And that's a problem. Jeez. You know, selling an asset, closing a bank account in advance of the need to do that, and then it creates problems. So I think slowing it down, collect the information, find the legal documents, the will, the trust. That's really important. Organize a list of what are the assets, and then see the attorney to make sure that it's handled properly.
Sometimes you can do these wills, you know, online. I've seen that. But I think that's often falls short of answering the questions and kind of talking through. I mean, nobody has just a black and white plain living situation. So I think being able to talk to somebody seems incredibly valuable here too, right?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, for sure. Everybody's situation is unique. Every family situation is unique. How you hold your assets. I mean, that's what creates, I think, I love the practice, because everybody's situation is different. And so you really want to customize your own estate plan and make sure that it's relevant to you. Also, these online services, you may download a will and execute it, but you may have not done it properly. Yeah, yeah. And then it's not valid. Right. And even though you thought you did the right thing, now you have a family disaster.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the story. So here's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping you have appointment time this week, because I'm going to send a bunch of people to you. Because I think I have all these priest friends who have done this with Vincent. I have a lot of other friends who are in the world of business who have come to Vincent. So, I mean, that's how you start, basically. Contact, and then you are one of the great people who are partners with you in this whole work. And I really call it a ministry, because it brings a lot of peace and satisfaction doing this kind of thing. So where can people go? Tell us where to go.
Okay. They can go to vjrussolaw.com or just call us at 516-683-1717. And we're happy to be helpful in any way we can.
And you have been. So like I said, I want to thank you publicly for everything you've done for my family and me. My Lord, I don't know where I'd be.
Thank you so much, Muncie.
I don't know. I'd be somewhere waiting for chicken McNuggets, I think. Thank God.